What the hell was that? If I had been sitting there, I could have died. Final Destination Bloodlines is inexplicably the best movie in the franchise. I don't know how that happened. Directed by Zach Lipovsky and Adam Stein, I hope I'm saying that right, who before this, I guess their most well-known thing was the live-action Kim Possible movie, are clearly huge fans of the previous 5 films. Like, this movie is a movie that could only have been made by fans of the property, and that is such a welcome breath of fresh air.
Family.
Actually, fun little anecdote, the story of how these guys actually got hired for this job is kind of great. It was during the pandemic. The producers were doing interviews for potential directors, and these guys set up a Zoom call that did start live, but then at a certain point inserted their own like pre-recorded footage. And so their interview for being the directors of this Final Destination movie ended with them both dying in a Final Destination-esque Rube Goldberg death, and that convinced the producers to give them the directing job. And I don't know, if that story alone doesn't kind of clue you in that these maybe were the perfect guys for the job, then I don't know what else will, other than the fact that they made the best Final Destination movie.
Just gotta love the one you got.
Like, how many times has that happened when the 6th or much later movie in a franchise is like the best example of it? I mean, there's Saw 6 and there's Saw X, and I can't think of any others. But what makes this one such a good Final Destination movie? Well, it takes what the other 5 movies have all established, and like the film language of the series and the rules of the series and everything you know as canon and how these movies work, and heightens it to 11 while also injecting more gore than we've ever had in any of these movies, as well as, I'm willing to say, more jokes and humor that actually lands than we've ever had in a Final Destination movie. There's so many deaths in here that I was just like chuckling to myself about. Like, that's not to say there aren't deaths that also don't hurt emotionally, because this is also well written.
Charlie, get up here.
He's a relentless son of a bitch.
It does something that a lot of like horror reboots that are trying to bring like a franchise back into the mainstream make the mistake of, which is over explaining the lore, like over explaining death and whatnot. They don't ruin anything by explaining death how they explain it. Like, death is still death as it acted in Final Destination 1 all the way to Final Destination 5. And I found the plot also pretty clever in what they do and how they kind of change expectations, because this does start with, you know, an elongated flashback to a disaster, and the person who wakes up from it isn't the person who experienced it. They're like dreaming of someone else's premonition from back in the day, their grandmother, and it, you know, leads them, the main character, on this whole adventure to figure out why death is focusing on her family, what happened in the past, how death works, and all that good shit.
Won't stop till he finishes the job.
And of course, we must address Tony Todd. He gets a scene in this movie as the coroner that the main characters always inevitably reach out to or go to try to find answers. And in the best description I can give for his character at this point in the franchise is just done and exhausted. And I love that characterization. And honestly, we get a surprisingly emotional and poignant monologue from him and his character about the nature of living and death and what it all means. And it's weird to say that a Final Destination movie impacted me emotionally, but that scene did, and it is definitely because of knowing the behind the scenes truth that he was dying at the time. He had cancer, and you can tell, I don't know if it was cancer, but he clearly had something that was terminal, and you can tell by the way he looks, the way he's thin and frail. And so it's just so powerful, this scene he does, talking about what I believe was his own mortality And I haven't seen or really felt anything like that since Twin Peaks season 3 with the log lady, when David Lynch filmed that scene while she was in hospice dying and gave her a whole monologue about death.
So, which one of you is next?
I don't know. It's a weird thing to point out in a Final Destination movie of all things, but it felt very poignant, very direct, and it hit me. It elevated the movie to a level I didn't expect. Moving away from that weird detour into being emotional, but like I said, all the deaths are fantastic. All the gore is great. One minor thing to bring up is watching it, I'm sure people are going to be like, oh, visual effects, CGI, blah, blah, blah. This is clearly like a $100 million budget idea being done on like a $50 million budget. So some of this CG and effects I don't think will age the best, but for what the movie's doing and for what you get, perfect. Like, it's fine. It all works. It's all campy, enjoyable, great fun.
Death is coming for our family.
Incredibly memorable. This has a couple of the most memorable deaths in the franchise I can think of. I really loved the one that involved the turning spring from a vending machine. When you see it, it's great. It's a good visual gag. And everything that happens in this movie also is so tightly written. Everything is Chekhov's gunned in the first act. Anything that happens to a character later on is hinted at visually or in the dialogue or something before it happens. Great. They definitely paid attention to every aspect of what was going to happen in the third act when they were writing it. Nothing feels out of nowhere. There's also a lot of fun references to previous movies, some more explicit and maybe kind of clunkily done in the grandmother's notebook that has like notes on like what you see or like drawings of all the events in the previous movies, which like how would she know that? Whatever, it's fine. It's a cool little thing for the audience to be like, oh, neat.
Lives that were never meant to be saved. But Death doesn't like it when you mess with his plans.
One complaint I do have, and maybe this is more of a complaint of the franchise and how they always end, but it ends like every other Final Destination movie with you being like, oh, these main characters are fucked. Like right before credit, like literally the punchline credits moment in every Final Destination movie is the same. Follows that same cliche of, okay, they're fucked. Death always wins. That's why I do hold like the second movie in a bit higher regard, because it does not end that way. Characters beat death. And they reference that in this, which is great. I like when they do that, when they reference people who have survived. I don't know. Something about that does always leave me feeling these movies like bad, where I'm like, oh, I like these characters. I would like to see them try to survive death for as long as oh, nope, they can't. Which is weird because the movies have established characters that manage to live long periods of time while avoiding death, which is kind of the whole crux and plot of this movie, that someone figured out how to do that for like 60 years and completely fucked to death over. I guess the best summary I can give is that, like I've said before, this is inexplicably the best movie in the franchise, the best example of what a Final Destination movie could and should be. It's funny, it's crowd-pleasing, it's entertaining, it's got really enjoyable gore that'll make you go, like you're on a roller coaster. And there's so much you can mine out of this series that if this is successful, I would love to see the gems they managed to uncover, as long as it's these directors or people that these directors endorse. I could see the studio really messing this up and not really learning the right lessons from what this movie has done right, but I'll just say this movie does almost everything right, except for, in my opinion, following the exact same cliche every Final Destination movie does before credits, to kind of leave me feeling like, oh, I mean, that was fun and clever, but also I wanted someone to live. But other than that, everything else this movie does is brilliant, funny, entertaining, crowd-pleasing, summer movie with a really strange, emotionally poignant scene with Tony Todd in there that impacted me as a horror fan, a genre movie fan, and a Tony Todd fan.
Will it pass you by?
Maybe Death's not actually coming for our family. Because that would be crazy.
So that's my quick little quickie, got home, immediately jumped onto my camera review of Final Destination Bloodlines. It is a revitalization of a horror franchise and I think most people assumed was dead, and if they did try to make it come back, it would be bad and not work. But my God, it works. They did it. They nailed it. And not everything Hollywood makes or brings back is instantly garbage. I like that philosophy more and more. Like, it's down to the filmmakers who make it and the motivation behind it. If you have the right people and you have the right timing, you can get a Final Destination Bloodlines or a Saw X. And I want to see that happen more. I want to see that encouraged more. And I hope people learn the right lessons from this movie. So yeah, if you enjoyed this review, check out my other random talking about movies and entertainment videos. And like, subscribe, share. And I will see you on the next one.